Well, welcome everyone to this next episode of Stories for Healing. As many of you have learned, this is a series that we're running where storytellers from around the world come to tell stories about healing. Now, it occurred to me, the week before election, that this was something we needed, that no matter what the election was going to turn out to be, that there's a lot of divisiveness and antagonism and stress. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized this isn't just our country, it's our communities, it's other countries, it's the world. And so what better thing to do than to have storytellers tell stories of healing? Not to tell us what to do or what not to do or who's good and who's bad, but just to tell stories of healing. And I think that works on all of us. So today we're very pleased to be able to welcome Laura Deal to our storytelling. Laura, please tell us a story.
Thank you so much, Jim. I really am enjoying this series so far and all the stories that have been brought for healing. This story that I chose, I found in Dan Ketting's book, Elder Tales, and it really spoke to me in part because of the work that I did before I became a storyteller. I studied history, and specifically the history of England and how women were portrayed as deviant or other. And of course, in the 1500s and 1600s, that included being accused of being witches. So this is my story, my version of the story, The Witch of Kamalalaya. Long ago in India, at the base of the Himalayan mountains, there was a village named Kamalalaya. Kamalalaya means home of the lotus, and it was a beautiful village. There was a lake right nearby that had beautiful white and pink lotus blossoms covering the surface of the lake. It seemed a peaceful and very happy place. But there was one person there who was not happy. She had lived in Kamalalaya her whole life, and she had studied all of the plants and the medicines that one would need to be a healer. She had a great intuitive gift for which plant should be used at which time. Many people went to her for that healing gift, but not every healing goes well. And eventually, people began to be suspicious of what she was able to do. Some of them started to call her a witch. The elders even called her witch, and the adults began to avoid her when they would see her in the street. The children learned to fear her, and the children learned to call her names. The abuse got so intense that eventually she moved out of the village and lived alone in a little hut, a little ways away, where she wouldn't have to put up with all of that. She got by as best she could, and the children were so afraid of her that they would avoid that hut when they would take the sheep out to the pastures. One of those children was a boy named Kierman. He was about 10 years old. He was an excellent shepherd for his family's sheep. He took them to the finest meadows, and he took the best care of them. And he loved them dearly, each and every one. Well, one day he took them to a meadow that was beautiful and lush with green grass and beautiful yellow flowers. He sat on a rock. He liked this particular meadow because there was a cliff on one side that sort of kept the sheep penned in. He played his flute. He ate his lunch. He watched the clouds drift across the sky. And when the sun was beginning to inch toward the horizon, he banged on his walking stick to gather the sheep, as he always did. And then, as any good shepherd would, he counted the sheep. And one was missing. He knew it was one of the new lambs, only a few weeks old. He searched through the grass, through the meadows. He called to it, he banged his stick, but the lamb was nowhere to be found. And so he took the rest of the sheep back to the village where they would be safe. He told his mother what had happened, and he gathered his friends to go with him to go back and look for the lost lamb. The boys all went with him, and when they got to the meadow, they started looking all around. And then Kierman looked up and saw that lamb right at the edge of the top of the cliff, happily munching away, grazing on the grass, eating the yellow flowers that the sheep loved so much. Kierman looked all along that cliff, and so did the boys, and they couldn't figure out how the lamb had gotten up there or how they would get it down. Kierman knew if they left it there all night long, well, it might suffer from the cold or some wild animal might get it. Finally, Kierman said, I think the only thing we could do is go and ask the witch. Maybe she could use some magic to get it down. The boy said, that's a good idea. You should go and ask her. He said, you come with me. No, we're not coming with you. She might turn us into frogs or something. It's your lamb, you go. And the boys ran home. So Kierman, with his heart pounding, full of terror but worried about his lamb, he ran to the witch's hut and he knocked on the door. The door swung open and he saw her lying there on her mat, sound asleep. Mother witch, please wake up. Mother witch, wake up and help me. Well, she did wake up, and she was not at all happy about being woken up so rudely. She started to say something to the boy, but then she saw tears streaming down his cheeks. She said, what is it? Said, it's my lamb. It's at the top of the cliff and I can't get it down. Can you use some magic to help me get the lamb down? She sighed. She got up off her mat. She gathered a rope and some strips of cloth. She handed them to Kierman and said, show me. So he took her to the meadow. And by this point, the lamb was standing there at the top of the cliff, crying because it had realized that everyone had left. It was bleeding so piteously. And Kierman said, there it is. I don't know how to get it down. Well, the old woman walked along that cliff up and down until at last she said, here, I think this is the path it probably took. It looks treacherous and dangerous. There are boulders, some might be loose. You'll have to be very brave, but I know you can do this. You're courageous. And so she tied a loop in the end of the rope and she said, now when you get there, put this over the lamb's head and pull it back from the edge of the cliff. And when it is safe, use one of the cloth strips to blindfold it. That will help it calm down. Then use another strip to tie its front legs together and the last to tie its back legs together. And then you can put it around your shoulders and tie it to your body because you will need your hands to come back down. It'll be dangerous. The lamb will be wiggling, but you must be strong and you are brave. And so Kierman took the rope and the cloth and he scrambled up that treacherous path. He did as she had told him and got the loop over the lamb and pulled it back. The lamb wiggled and protested, but he got it blindfolded. He got the legs bound, and finally he got the lamb tied to his body. The sun was quite low in the sky and the light was tricky as he made his way back down the path. He was so scared, but he kept remembering what she had said. You're courageous. You can do this. And she was calling encouragement from down below. Yes, that's right. You're almost there. And when he finally got down, she patted him on the shoulder and they started back for the village. She walked him home. All of the other villagers had gone to bed except his mother, of course, who was waiting up. Kierman turned to thank the old woman, but she had already gone. He put the lamb with the other sheep and then he told his mother what had happened. He said, I am so ashamed. We treated her so badly. And she helped me, not with magic, but with her wisdom. And Kierman and his mother spoke long into the night. In the morning, she went and talked to some of the neighbors, and soon the word spread throughout the village about what the old woman had done. So when Kierman and his mother went to return the rope and the cloth to the old woman, all of the village went with them. Kierman knocked on the old woman's door. She opened it and took a step back, seeing the entire village gathered there. She couldn't figure out why they had all come. But Kierman and his mother were smiling, and the others were hanging their heads in shame. And Kierman said, "We want you to come and live with us in the village and be part of the village again." Kierman's mother spoke up, "We want you to come and live in our house." And the old woman looked at all the people assembled there. She remembered all of the terrible things they had said and done. But she looked at Kierman's sweet face, at Kierman's mother, and she agreed. She gathered her few things and went back with them to the village. And she moved in with Kierman and his mother. She became like a grandmother to the boy. She taught Kierman and his mother both where to find the plants that they would need for healing. She taught them what she knew. She shared with anyone who would listen her stories and her wisdom. And she lived in comfort and community for the rest of her days.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, what a beautiful story.
I'm quite fond of that one.
I can see why. Now, it occurs to me that the old woman was in fact using some magic. Do you see it that way?
Well, it depends on how you define magic.
I mean, her words of encouragement were really kind of magical in themselves. She was calling forth his strength and his courage. Um, and it was his words of thanks to her and his mother's that worked a little magic on the community, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And isn't that what we need now is to reach out to the folks who are outside and recognize their wisdom and their humanity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So everyone, another episode of Stories for Healing. I want to encourage you to come back. We broadcast these twice a day at 2:30 in the afternoon and 8 o'clock in the evening, East Coast, United States time. And I have to put all those qualifiers in because if you've been following us, you know that we've had people visit us literally from around the world to tell us stories, and more of them are coming. Scores of people are coming. It's really quite remarkable. So again, visit the Transformational Storytelling Facebook page to see them live. And there you'll also find the link to the YouTube channel where all of these can be watched over and over again, or for the first time if you missed one. So thanks again and have a great day.